Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, Wednesday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 78. And so for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium like we always do. After that, we'll hit up the news from the past week. And then we're going to do our week 17 power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going pretty good, man. I gotta say, I definitely was not expecting that Houston win over the Chargers, man. That's like the true any given Sunday right there.
Yeah, especially with how many players fucking Houston had out, that's unacceptable.
I mean, I will say this. I'm digging what Davis Mills is doing. He's getting better every week. He's been efficient. Not necessarily spectacular, but for a third round pick, I think he's like well outperformed what anybody was expecting. Um, and I know we're getting to the end of the year, but I hope that they give that guy a chance to at least compete for the starting job next year because I think he's done enough to at least deserve that.
Yeah, I agree. He's like I said, I think it was last week or the week before. Looking statistically, he's the second best rookie quarterback this year.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, we talked about it against the Jacksonville week. I mean, way outperforming frickin' Trevor Lawrence, man.
Yeah, which is who would believe that? Like,
Yeah, with a lesser supporting cast. Oh, but hey, good for him, man. Good for him. Smart kid out of Stanford. He's making it happen. So I like it. Okay, let's kick things over to name that stadium. And so for anybody who's watching, this is the part of the show, as you can see, James is out there traveling the country. Every week he's got a different stadium in his background. During the regular season like this, it's typically a stadium for a home team that's playing this weekend. We're just asking if you think you know what stadium that is. Hit us up in the comments section, and the first person to get it right gets a special shout out next week's show. And so, James, where were you at last week, man?
last week I was at what's it, Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, and I forget who was. I completely am drawing a blank. It's been that type of day or week so far, but
Oh, they beat Denver, I believe.
maybe Denver. Yeah, that's right. I was like, who do they play? But yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting game last week, so I picked them.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, I'm digging the stadium you got this week. I like that picture, man. That's a nice background you got there.
Yeah, I thought so too. So that's why I went with this one. Well, one of
Sweet.
the reasons why I went with this one.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some stuff in there to give it away, but let's see. Let's see if anybody takes us up this week. Okay, moving on. Let's do our recap of the past week. And so, the big thing, I guess we'll just kick it off with, James, is legendary coach, broadcaster, video game, whatever you want to call it. John Madden passed away. He was 85 years old. Um, the article I read, the details weren't disclosed, but it said that it was not expected. And so I don't know if that means he had a sudden heart attack or something along those lines. But it seems like there wasn't like some, known condition that caused it that was kind of, sometimes at that age it's expected, like, oh, oh, hey, the guy's got a heart condition or this or that. And doesn't seem like that was the case here, but um, either way, obviously John Madden, totally legit Hall of Fame coach from the Raiders. I was checking it, man. It was impressive. 75.9% regular season winning percentage, which is the best in the NFL for coaches with 100 plus games. I didn't even realize he was that good until he passed away and I read that article. But we all know him from broadcasting as well, if you're our age at least or older. Maybe some of these younger people don't, but and then obviously the video games, and so I mean a hero to many, and I don't know what else to say, man. Just rest in peace, John Madden.
Yeah, it was sad. And you notice the one thing I was thinking about, like all the other sports games that like EA Sports does, like when they had the MLB game, they had their NHL game, their FIFA game, their NBA game. All those games don't bear somebody's name on it,
Yeah.
and except for Madden NFL. And somebody was running through one of the sports talks was running through the history of it, and I didn't realize that the first Madden game wasn't actually Madden NFL. It was John Madden Football because they
Oh,
didn't have any of the licenses.
gotcha.
So they had like teams that it was like New York, and they had the color of the Giants, but weren't called the Giants. Or the Jets were like New Jersey, and like they were just running down, and then like they got like the NFL rights, so they could use the team names, but couldn't use the player names. And
Okay.
then and it was like it was interesting. But that game, man, many a nights playing that game.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, fake it till you make it. You know, he got the rights. It just took him a year to do it, or whatever, a couple years, or
Yeah.
you know. No, hey man, I love Madden, dude. I mean, I've been playing it almost since the beginning, and maybe even since the beginning. I was just so little, it's hard to remember when I got started exactly. But and
Well,
it's
I was thinking about it, and the first Madden game wasn't sold for a video game system. It was only a computer game.
mm, okay. Then yeah, I didn't get started right away. Then I'm sure my first one was probably on like Super Nintendo or something.
Yeah, I think that was 94 or 95, I think, was Super Nintendo.
Okay. Well, with the naming thing, like you mentioned, I would say this. I think Tiger Woods would have been the other one if he didn't mess it up.
Yeah.
If his off the course antics didn't come into play, I bet you they'd still have the Tiger Woods franchise rolling. But that ship has sailed at this point, and it's sad too because the new golf games I'm just not digging. But it is what it is at this point. So. Um, Yeah. All right. So in other news, the Pro Bowl rosters were announced this past week. It looks like the Colts, they got the lead here with 7 players selected to the Pro Bowl. And, when we get to the end here, James, I'll just give you a little bit of a little sneak peek on the question of the week. But let's talk about Pro Bowl snubs, if you got one in particular, or if you think of one between now and the end of the show here. And so,
I
um,
I have one.
Okay. And I think there's plenty to pick from this year. And there usually is, but some of them this year I think are a little bit more obvious than in past years.
Oh,
And
the second year was on Super Nintendo, so that was 1990.
okay. Yeah, so I was probably somewhere around that range. Maybe not right off the bat, but pretty close. So in other news from this past week, man, there were a lot of record related things that came up. And I think a lot of people were expecting, oh, hey, there's going to be some records this year because of the extra week. These aren't really those kind of records, but I'll just run you through them. Aaron Rodgers passed Brett Favre for the most passing touchdowns in Green Bay Packers history. He's still behind Favre all time, though. 445 is what Rodgers is sitting at. Favre retired at 508. So he's squarely in 5th place and working his way towards there. We'll see how much longer he plays. He's made comments about possibly retiring after this season, I guess. We'll see what happens. Justin Jefferson, he's now got 2,755 yards in his first 2 NFL seasons, which now passes Odell Beckham Jr. for the most in NFL history. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm glad to see that record fall. I just think OBJ is a freaking nut job. And the less that we got to hear his name, the better, in my opinion.
Mm.
Next up, we got Josh Allen, first player in NFL history with 100+ passing touchdowns and 20+ rushing touchdowns in his first 4 seasons. Solid there. Another quarterback news, we got Joe Burrow, 525 passing yards against the Ravens last week. That's 4th most in a game since 1950. I mean, just freaking, it's intense. And then, and then another quarterback one, Zach Wilson. I'm just going. It's like speed round here, James. Zach Wilson had a 52-yard rushing touchdown last week, which is pretty impressive for a quarterback. And it turns out it's longest all time in New York Jets history. And so, and I got one more. I'll give you one more. Dallas, their romping of the Washington football team, where they put up 56 points, was the most for the Cowboys since Week 6, 1980. So, a lot of big things happened this past week. Pretty cool. We've been hearing a lot of the COVID stuff and a lot of the injuries and whatever else. It was nice to get a flurry of different kind of news, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was one record. I want to say it was Waddle or something, and it was like most yards receiving in your rookie season, and I want to say it
Okay.
was Waddle, and
Because I heard he was
so
on pace for something.
yeah, he was approaching it, and then but they pointed out the fact that like all the other records were done in 16 game seasons, and this one was a 17 game season, but Waddle missed a game this season, so he's on pace for it, or he's going to break it,
Yeah.
playing 16 games this season.
Yeah. So, put an asterisk next to the asterisk
Yeah, exactly.
is what's going to happen. And then, I'll say this. The last thing I had news wise, which just blows my mind, is that on this past Sunday, Adam Schefter reported the New York Giants are planning on bringing back head coach Joe Judge and quarterback Daniel Jones. I don't know what the F they're thinking, but if it were me, James, I'd be cleaning house. I'd be jumping in on the Russell Wilson sweepstakes because he specifically named the Giants as a team he'd waive his no trade clause for. I don't know, man. I mean, what do you think of that stuff?
Well, I can understand them keeping Daniel Jones because if you look at this rookie class of quarterbacks, nobody's worth it.
Yeah,
No, nobody's. I don't see a franchise quarterback in this class. Like I see a bunch of has-beens. So I understand keeping Daniel Jones. Um, Keeping Joe Judge, I don't fucking understand. The only reason they're keeping Joe Judge is because the last two coaches they fired after 2 seasons.
oh, so yeah, they're just doing it because they got too much egg on their face. They're like,
Yeah,
we got to give
and
the guy one more chance.
and but the thing it tells me is they're going to bring in another Mara family yes man to be GM
Mm,
because because if you're who's going to seriously take the job to be settled with a coach? This is your coach, deal with it. This is your quarterback, deal with it. Now go make the team and try to win games. And it's like if you're coming in as a GM, you're going to want to have
yeah,
the option to hire a new coach if you so choose as you see fit. And the history of them hiring GMs is it's been all former Giant staff or all internally, so it's perpetuating the same culture in New York. And they have to break that cycle by getting a new somebody from outside the organization, somebody that doesn't have ties to the Giants. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is if they give him the option
yeah.
to
Give them the
hire a
power.
coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you pointed that out because they are way out of sequence, and it does indicate that they're going to make a bad choice.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they'd be bringing in a guy saying, "Hey, you're supposed to be the top guy here. You get to pick your people." And I guess I will say this with Daniel Jones, I don't have a problem as much with them keeping him because I believe his cap number for next year. I want to say I read it was like super low. It was like 8 million or something.
Hmm.
And at that amount, it's like, okay, that's fine. Go out and bring in another guy to compete with him. If you can't get Russell Wilson, maybe you go and take a shot on Fitzpatrick or somebody else that's in free agency just to give him some competition. And at that pay level, you got some money to play around with, or at least you should. And so, but I think Joe Judge has got to go, in my opinion. And so I don't know. It's just one more year, whatever. It's the Giants. They make bad choices.
Yeah, they've been making bad choices for a while. Like the reason why Gettleman was hired was because here was what the interview questions were, and I believe the timing is right, and it was, are you gonna protect Eli Manning's feelings? Yes. Okay, you're hired.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, news-wise, what else you got? Anything you want to add?
The thing I have is there's a lot of rumors going around that behind the scenes, the Chicago Bears are negotiating with the Saints to trade for Sean Payton.
Whoa, a coach trade.
Yeah.
That would be freaking sweet, man.
And
It's been a long time.
what I understand, the rumor is the conditions for Sean Payton to go to Chicago, because Payton's from Chicago. He was um, briefly a member of the Bears. He was actually cut by Mike Ditka and encouraged to go into coaching. He still resides in Chicago in the off season, but part of the conditions I'm hearing is Sean Payton, he wants full control.
Yeah, I mean that's the next step for a guy like him, you know, is that he's like the sort of like the Gruden, where it's like, yeah, maybe you got a GM, but he gets to trump him on everything he wants.
Yeah. So I don't know. It kind of scares me a little bit. Sean Payton in the NFC North. Like, it just, something about that son as a Lions fan is very unsettling.
Well, because he'd be getting a young quarterback in Justin Fields, and they've got David Montgomery. He's been a pretty good running back. There's pieces there that he could build from and turn it into something. And so, it'd be exciting. I don't know, like a lot of times when those coaches have their roles expand like that, it doesn't seem like it works very well. I mean, Belichick's like the be all end all, but I don't know too many other coaches that get that kind of power that like have staying power. It seems like it's more than they can handle. And so I don't know. He's a smart enough guy that if it would work for anybody, it'd probably work for him. But we'll see. Time will tell. But that would definitely be interesting.
It would be, and it'd be scary as hell for the NFC North, but it's been a while since we've seen a coach trade.
Yeah, and hey, it just, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So up the level
Exactly.
of competition and figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No, I think that was about it. Let me glance, see if I have any. COVID rules changed. Uh, oh, with the fact that Carson Wentz got COVID this week,
Yeah.
the Colts, before saying Ellinger will be the starter, and if Wentz can't go, the Colts reached out to Philip Rivers to gauge interest in him coming back for a game.
I saw that.
I was like, oh wow. I mean, they need it. They have to win. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a risky move pulling him off the couch, you know. I mean,
yeah,
could he come in and do it? Maybe. Yeah, I just think it'd be tough. You're
yeah,
asking a guy, hey, yeah, you probably still know the playbook and you're probably still keeping yourself in pretty good shape, but fucking shake all the rust off right now because we need you Sunday. That's a lot to ask, man.
yeah. It's a ton to ask. So I don't see it actually happening, but it would have been interesting if he would have agreed to it.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure. Okay, cool. Well, let's move on here. Let's do our Week 17 power rankings. And James, I'm pulling up my spreadsheet here, man. Whenever you're ready, why don't you give me your 1 through 5?
All right. So my top two stayed the same. I have the Packers at number one. They had a solid, eh, possibly controversial win over Cleveland on Christmas Day. Uh, I'll, I'll leave them at number one. The Rams, number two. They barely beat Minnesota, and I considered putting them down to 3 based on that, but I figured they won, give them the credit, keep them there.
Sure.
At number 3, I have the Chiefs, and they moved up 3 spots to number 3, and I'm just glancing over at yours, and I think our top three are the same. Wow.
We're locked in now, yeah.
So the Chiefs have been playing like the Chiefs we expected coming into the season, like the Chiefs at the end of last year. Yeah, it was Pittsburgh they beat the shit out of. The interesting fact I took out of the Pittsburgh game was it Aikman and Buck, or was it whoever was announcing the game was questioning whether Pittsburgh or when Pittsburgh was going to decide to start playing in the game.
Oh, jeez.
That's how bad that game was. So Kansas City moved up 3 spots. I have the Colts at number 4. They moved up 1 spot. They beat who did they beat?
Oh, Indy had a good win here. Here, I got it off to the side.
Arizona. They beat Arizona. And it was, it was a solid win. Again, Jonathan Taylor. With Jonathan Taylor, I'm actually considering putting a little money down on him winning MVP.
Ooh. I saw something today. He's got like 400 and something yards lead on the second highest rusher in the league right now.
That, and he's basically single-handedly running the Colts into the playoffs this year. And I mean, it's ridiculous. And if he had the times where he hasn't had 100, it's basically he has 100 yards, the Colts win. He doesn't have 100 yards rushing, the Colts lose. I mean, how can you call somebody else the most valuable player of that team? And I think I'm sick of quarterbacks winning it.
Sure, I'm with you.
At number 5, I have Dallas. They moved up 2 spots. This was a little iffy for me putting them there because they beat Washington. Washington was playing some scrub at quarterback, and I mean, Dallas just beat the shit out of them. But like a lot of teams that I expected to win kind of looked like shit, so they dropped down, and that caused Dallas to move up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have moved Dallas up to number 5.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, so on my side, we're locked in 1 through 3, and I've actually got 4 and 5 the same as last week, and so I got the Packers, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and the Bucks. With the Packers, it was funny, man. I remember going back to week 1, and they got upset by the Saints right off the bat, and everybody was screaming like, "Oh my gosh, they're doomed! This is it. Rodgers is out." It was all. Here they are now. They got the top record in the league. At 2 with the Rams, I will say I was tempted to move the Chiefs above them, but I think the Rams have just been a little bit more consistent throughout the year. The Chiefs, they've been on fire lately, but man, they had such a rocky start to the year. I'm comfortable keeping them at 2 and 3 in that order for now. With Dallas and Tampa Bay, they both had nice wins. But there was just nowhere for them to go up on the board. I don't see them necessarily being better than those guys in my top 3, at least not right now. So back to you, man, at 6.
At 6, I have the Bucks. They moved up 3 spots, and I didn't put them above Dallas, even though the Bucks beat Dallas first game of the year, because these two teams are completely different directions right now. Dallas is playing a lot better than the Bucks, so I left the Bucks below Dallas. Plus, with the injuries, I have a lot of concerns about the Bucks. They have an easy remaining schedule. They have the Jets, then the Panthers, so it's an easier remaining schedule. So they might end up with a better record than Dallas, but those injuries come playoff time do not make the Bucks scary at all.
Sure.
At number 7, I have the Bills. The Bills just beat New England. And, it's what I expected going in. Like I said, they were going to split, and they split. I've been my concern with the Bills is they're playing really inconsistently, and they can't stop the fucking run at all. They cannot stop the run for some reason. I don't know what the hell it is, but they can't stop the run, and it's very concerning going into the playoffs when you have teams like Tennessee, who possibly is going to get Hunter Henry back for the playoffs. You have teams like Indianapolis. Um, there's another one. It's Cincinnati, who can all run the ball,
Oh yeah.
and it's so I don't like the prospects for the Bills going in the playoffs, but I have them at number 7 currently. At number 8, I have the Cardinals. I dropped the Cardinals down 5 spots after this past week. And I probably should have killed them a little bit more. I mean, yeah, it was a close game against Indianapolis, but this is what 2 or 3 straight games they've lost, and they just have not looked like they did out of the gate. And they're starting to look like that start was a little lucky for them. At number 9, I have the Patriots. They also dropped 5 spots. And the reason I dropped them 5 spots is because it was 2 weeks in a row where Mac Jones looked a little shaky and he was hitting that rookie wall, so to speak. And that's concerning. Yeah, you have the running game there, but and you can win if you're playing the right team that's another team that can run the ball and possibly beat Buffalo in the playoffs. Is New England.
Yeah.
It's just quarterback play. If I have concerns if Mac Jones can drive the field and win the game for them, down 7 late in the game or down 3 late in the game. And number 10, I have the Bengals. They moved up 1 spot. I was really impressed with Burrow's performance this past week. He would put up like 60 points in fantasy, something ridiculous like that. And let me double check that. It was ridiculous. I think I have him in our league, but yeah, he put up 56.1 points
In the
this week
playoffs.
in the playoffs, and his stat line is for that game was ridiculous. I wish I should have typed it out more, but it was 525 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 11 yards rushing, no interceptions, no fumbles, nothing. And
Jeez.
that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, and this is what we what I thought he was. He coming into the year, and then against Baltimore, yeah, Baltimore who was starting some scrub because Huntley was out too, but we'll get to Baltimore later. But Cincinnati they can be a threat in the playoffs. I don't think they can make it all the way to the Super Bowl, but they can knock off a team or two here with how Burrow can easily flip that switch and light it up.
Yeah, it just takes the right moment. They're a hot team right now, and if they stay hot, yeah, they could play against anybody. Okay, so for me over at 6, I got Buffalo. I moved them up 3 spots. This was the kind of win over New England that I think has been evading them most of the season. And so hopefully, they work some of the bugs out. I agree with you. The running defense needs to improve. Um, but they still have, I think, one of the better all-around teams. And so there's still potential there. But yeah, they've got some flaws. At 7, I've got the Titans. I moved them up 1 spot. I just don't know what to think about these guys, man. I keep picking them wrong. Every time I pick them to lose, they win. Every time I pick them to lose, whatever, vice versa. So at 8, I got the Colts. I moved them up 3. I like what I'm seeing about them. They're peaking at the right time. Hopefully, this COVID thing with Wentz doesn't become an issue because, yeah, like you mentioned, this is a pretty critical time for them. At 9, I got the Patriots. I dropped them down 2 spots. I still like them, but when I look at teams like Indy, and then obviously they just lost to Buffalo, I just felt like this was an appropriate shuffle on the board. And then at 10, I got Arizona. I dropped them down 4. Um, yeah, they're on a skid, man, and it's a late season skid. I've heard people are calling for Kingsbury's head because this just kind of seems to be his MO. In the second half of the season, this team falls apart, and it's like the worst possible time, man. They're getting ready to make a playoff run. Hopefully, they can correct the course and they can get back to form because they look pretty freaking amazing for the most of the year. So let's see what happens. Back to you at 11.
All right. So at 11, I have the Titans. They moved up 2 spots. It was kind of a function of I dropped the team that I had ahead of them down, and they got up the 1 spot bump for winning, even though, I mean, it was the 49ers, and it was a close game. And at 12, I have the Saints. Yeah, they lost this past week, but they were playing nobody. I mean, Ian Book is obviously not NFL-ready quarterback, and they had to start him. I think they were missing like 3/4 of their offense, or 60%, 80% of their offensive line, somewhere around there, and they were missing a few defensive key pieces on defense. So it was no surprise that they lost to Miami, but it's just I'm not going to kill them for losing to Miami because of the situation around it.
Sure.
Quirk on my power rankings is the Browns. They moved up 1 spot after losing, and this was another COVID issue. Plus, I dropped the Chargers from my number 10 spot all the way down to my number 14 spot.
Okay.
So that kind of moved the Browns up. With the Chargers, I have no trust in them that they can win the games. I mean, they lost to Houston, who had like 20 players on the COVID list. It was like, did they just think, oh, we can just like throw our jockstraps on the field and beat this team because this isn't a real team? Yeah, you mentioned Mills.
Davis Mills, yeah.
Mills is playing better, but still, if you're a Super Bowl caliber team, you want to win championships, you have to beat teams like Houston. You have to actually play the fucking game. And yeah, it's happened before. The Bills lost to the Jaguars, and the Jets beat the Bengals. It happens, but it's just.
It seems like it's happened a lot this year.
The Chargers didn't show up to that game at all. At number 15, I have the Raiders. They moved up 2 spots. They beat Denver 17-13, but also like a couple teams in front of them lost. A couple teams. It's just kind of where they fell after I adjusted a couple other teams. Chargers ended up 2 spots.
Sure, I gotcha. Over on my side at 11, I got the Bengals. I moved them up 4 spots. I thought it was a solid win over Baltimore, despite the quarterback situation in Baltimore. I feel pretty good about the shellacking they gave them, and so it was good for a 4-spot bump. 12, I got the Chargers. I dropped them down 2. And yeah, I think anybody could have made the case to drop them lower for sure. I'm just hoping that it was a blip on the radar. We've seen a lot of good football out of these guys. My opinion is that they are still ahead of schedule with the new coach and everything they got going on. But yeah, it was a nasty loss. 13, I got the Dolphins. I moved them up 3 spots. Their train just keeps rolling, man. They got 7 straight wins now. It's kind of blowing my mind, to be honest. 14, I got the Ravens. I dropped them down 2. And at this point, their season is falling apart. They're 1 game away from falling to 500. There's reports that Lamar's back at practice, but with a noticeable limp. I think that they're in trouble, man. And then at 15, I got the Browns. I dropped them down 2. It was nice that they came back and made it interesting against Green Bay, but from what I saw and what I read about later, it seemed like they were pretty clearly outmatched. It just the box score looked closer than you might have thought. So back to you at 16.
All right, 16. I have the Dolphins. Moved them up 3 spots. It's ridiculous. They're the first team in NFL history to have a 7-game losing streak and a 7-game winning streak in the same season, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Just 2 months ago, we thought they were done with Tua and trying to get rid of him, and now they have to give him another year because of what he's shown them. Tua has some fatal flaws, like he can't throw the deep ball. He's a little bit too short. Not height shaming, but he's too short. He can't run the ball. He's just there's issues with Tua, but see what you have there.
Yeah.
17, I have the 49ers. I dropped them down 2 spots because they lost. 49ers are kind of a hit and miss team. I was actually running through the playoff machine on ESPN.com based on what I'm projecting for the wins coming up this season, and it's like I have basically the wins with the remaining schedules. I have 2 teams that I have in my bottom half of my league that make the playoffs, and the 49ers are one of them, which I thought was interesting. 18, I have Baltimore. I dropped them down 2 spots. I really wanted to kill Baltimore, but the quarterback situation prevented me from kind of moving them down further. And so that's just where they ended up. I don't like it. Philadelphia, I have at 19. They moved up 4 spots, and that's a big jump for beating who did I beat? For beating the Giants.
Yeah.
It's a huge jump for beating the Giants, but it also kind of happened that teams up here kind of lost, and they just fell at 19. And plus, based on my projections, I have them in the fucking playoffs.
They're making a run, man. They're making a run.
I don't know how Jalen Hurts is leading this team to the playoffs, but it is. And the scary thing is if they make the playoffs, their GM, what's his name? Not Laurie. Is it Laurie?
Howie Roseman.
Howie Roseman, thank you. Jeffrey Lurie's the owner. Howie Roseman, he'll probably get another year, and he makes terrible decisions. He's made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and they keep giving him another year because they're still writing that check for that Super Bowl that they've lucked into. At number 20, I have the Broncos. Broncos stayed the same even though they lost. They lost to a team they lost to Vegas, who I have ahead of them, and I've had ahead of them pretty much all season. They kept it close. It was in Vegas, so if you adjust that for the home field advantage, I mean, still it's barely a win by Vegas. So I left the Broncos right there at number 20.
Okay. So I got the 49ers at 16. I moved them down 2 spots, and it's just kind of similar to how I feel about the Titans. I just can't pick these guys right this year, and so there's just not a lot that I can trust with them. At 17, I got the Eagles. I moved them up 5 spots, and earlier in the year we saw sort of like this boomer bust potential out of this team, and they've turned it into some consistent performances. They're now above 500, and they're definitely a weak playoff team if they get in, but they could definitely get in with the way they've been playing. And then at 18, I got Minnesota. I dropped them down 1. The spread was 3 in that game, and they lost by 7. In my opinion, that was still a pretty close game for them. And so, I read that it was more about Stafford sucking it up really than Minnesota, keeping it tight. But either way, they kept it close. 19, I got Pittsburgh. I dropped them down 1. I don't really know what to say about these guys. It just I can't help but wonder if they miss the playoffs, do you just blow up this team? I know they love Mike Tomlin, and so he's probably not going anywhere, but it's like if there was ever a time to do it, this is it, man. And then at 20, I got the Saints. I dropped them down 1 spot. It's just hard to watch these guys. They're just, they're just like you said, Ian Book, man. I mean, they're missing so much talent. It's just hard. You can't expect anything out of them right now. And so, we were spoiled for years with Drew Brees, and this is their 4th quarterback this year. So it's not an ideal situation. Back to you at 21.
All right, 21, I have the Washington football team, and I dropped them 3 spots. I don't feel good about dropping them 3 spots because of the situation behind the loss, but they just got smoked. they just got their asses completely beat down by Dallas, and so I had to do something with them, even though they had like some off the street free agent that's never played. I don't even remember who started the game. I'm just making shit up, but it's like that's how much of an impression that game made on me. I turned the game on for like 2 seconds. It was like 21-0, and I'm like, screw this. Uh, 22. I have the Steelers. I dropped them down one spot after losing to
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Yes. They scored 10 points. Look, Roethlisberger's done. I've been saying it all fucking year. Roethlisberger's done. Roethlisberger should just fucking retire and get off my damn TV. The Steelers should blow it up because what are they going to have coming back? They're
TJ Watt.
TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. Oh, they have Najee Harris, but they don't have an offensive line that can block for them.
Yeah.
I mean, just blow it up and rebuild. 23, I have the Seahawks. Drop down one spot. There's not much that I haven't said about the Seahawks. They lost to Chicago. Enough said. 24, I have the Vikings. Yeah, they kept it close against the
Rams. I'll give you the assist all night if I can.
Yeah, I know. I don't have it. The reason why I had to pause on it was because I don't have it far enough over to see Los Angeles what. So I was like, wait a minute, that's not Houston. I thought they played the Rams. So like I'm kind of glancing over just to verify, and
Sure.
like, wait, that says Houston, but it's Chargers. So they kept it close against Minnesota, and the thing about the Rams is you're right. It was the Vikings is. Yeah, it was a little bit of Matthew Stafford playing like shit, but Minnesota was able to take advantage of some things and keep the game close. And with the disparity between where I have the teams ranked and the talent and the level of competition that these teams can put out each week, I left Minnesota at 24.
Okay.
25, I have the Falcons. Now, this is one where I almost dropped them this week, even though they beat the Detroit Lions, because they almost lost to the Detroit Lions. If honestly, because Christmas Day and like I didn't realize it until the game started that Goff was out, I would have changed my pick, but I can't say it after the fact because that's bullshit. But I would have changed my pick if I realized Goff was out. I didn't catch the news on Saturday on Christmas Day, so Sunday morning I woke up and did whatever, and then I turned on Lions game and was like, wait, why is Goff not playing? Oh, he has COVID.
I got you. So you're posturing if we're within one here at the end of the year.
I'm posturing, but it's not really posturing. I'm just saying. It was
no, I know, man.
Situation.
I know.
It was It should have been expected that the Falcons beat the Lions. They shouldn't have been that close. If it was a Boyle's not a NFL quarterback, I mean, this is how bad the Jordan Love pick was for Green Bay. Jordan Love was third string QB last year behind Timmy Boyle.
Yeah.
Who we all saw is not a real NFL quarterback. But the Falcons didn't deserve to move up. I wanted to move them down, but I couldn't put them behind a couple of the teams I have behind them.
I got you. Okay, so at 21, I got the Raiders. I moved them up 2 spots. I thought it was a nice win over a divisional opponent. They're barely keeping their playoff hopes alive, but they are alive. 22, I got the Washington football team. I dropped them down 2. I was tempted to drop them down further, but I opted to just kind of keep them here because I'm looking at like Denver, Atlanta, those guys beyond them. I think Washington, when they're healthy and things are looking okay, they're better. But maybe Denver, I don't know. You could argue. But 23, I got Denver down 2, tough loss. They could be facing a rebuild, and maybe we'll talk more about that as the night goes on here. 24, I got Atlanta. I moved them up one spot. I hear what you're saying. They beat the Lions. It should have been more decisive. And it just worked out on my board that they got a bump. So win's a win. Good for them. And then at 25, I got the Bears. I moved them up 3. And this move was more about me believing that they're better than the Seahawks, obviously, because they just beat them, as well as the Panthers and the Giants. And so I had to just sort of like reorganize my board here. Back to you at 26, homie.
All right, at 26, I have the Texans, and yeah, they just beat down. Well, beat down. They won by 12 points, so I'm calling it a beat down. The Chargers, because the Chargers were never really in that game, and I only moved them up one spot because I think it was more. The win was more of the Chargers not taking them seriously instead of Houston actually being better than the Chargers. I think you play that game 5 more times, I think the Chargers win all 5 times. It just happened to be catch them at the right spot, whether whatever happened with the Chargers went out, laid an egg, and the Texans won. 27, I have the Bears. I moved them up 3 spots. They moved up 3 spots more because I dropped teams ahead of them lost than based on their win against Seattle. The Bears just they blow. They're a shitty team. They have a shitty head coach. They have a shitty front office. Justin Fields maybe is the future quarterback, but what does that say about Mitch Trubisky if Justin Fields is looking just as shitty and he was more highly touted than Mitch Trubisky? 28, I have the Lions. I dropped them 2 spots for losing to Atlanta. I would have killed them more if they lost and Goff was playing, but they kept it competitive with a backup quarterback more, probably because the Falcons suck than the Lions are good, so I only dropped them 2 spots. 29, Panthers dropped 1 spot, which, good news, Cam Newton is not starting for the Panthers this week.
Yay, back to Sam Darnold.
Bad news, Sam Darnold is starting. I don't know what's wrong with the Panthers. It's, yeah, McCaffrey's injury, yeah, this, yeah, that. What the They swung and missed hard on Sam Darnold and get rid of Teddy Bridgewater. They just swung and missed hard. Hard.
Yeah, they better come up with something this offseason because otherwise, like here's the problem I have with them, not to go on a huge tangent, but it's like too late in the game for Rule to go out and draft a quarterback because he's not going to get another free pass of a season. Mm-hmm. And so whatever he does this year, he's got to win some games. And I think that long term they need to draft a quarterback, but they're going to have to get a guy that can come in and be a rock solid bridge quarterback this year. And that's a lot easier said than done, man.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel bad because I thought Matt Rule was a good coach in college. I thought his systems translated well to the NFL.
They just rolled the wrong dice. They rolled it on Darnold, man, and they didn't have a really good backup to that, which was I don't know.
But is that Rule's fault or is that the GM's fault?
Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out. At 30, I have the Giants. They dropped down 1 spot. The only reason why the Giants didn't drop down further is because of the shittiest teams are behind them.
Yeah. Okay. At 26, I got Seattle. I dropped them down 2. Yeah. Hey, we've talked a lot about them. At 27, I got the Panthers. Even though they lost, I didn't move them, and that's just because I think they're better than the next bunch of guys I got on the list here. 28, I got the Giants. Dropped them down 2. I'm just blown away they're keeping Joe Judge, but whatever. 29, I got the Jets. I moved them up 1, and just looking at it now, I am tempted to move them above the Giants because their arrows are pointing in different directions. I believe they're both sitting at 4 wins now. The Jets are moving in the right direction. The Giants are not. And so I probably got to flip them on the board, but they're close enough that it's okay for now. And then at 30, I got the Texans. It was a nice upset win. Definitely could have gone higher. And like I said, I'm just hoping they give Davis Mills a shot next year because I think he's earned it at this point. Dumpster fire, James.
All right, 31. I have the Jets. Yeah, they won, but they beat the Jaguars, which I have at 32. So they don't deserve to move anywhere from here. Zach Wilson finally looked like a real NFL quarterback, which is good, but it's against the fucking Jaguars. I could look like a real NFL quarterback.
Okay. So I got the Lions at 31. I dropped them down 2 spots. I would really love to keep them higher because they've been staying in games and they've had a lot of one-score games that they've lost. But the problem is they keep losing. And so you got to win more than this to get out of the fucking dumpster fire. That's all that matters. And at 32, I got the Jags. They're just garbage. They really are. I mean, like, they're night and day from the Lions, and it sucks I got to have them that close to each other. But their records are equally as shitty, and so it is what it is at this point. Sweet. So those were the Week 17 power rankings. Let's move it over to the Week 17 game picks. And so here's where we're at season to date. James, you're sitting at 139 wins, which is good for 58%. I am sitting at 142 wins, which is good for 59%. And I'll just say you've done a heck of a job chipping away at my lead. We got this week and next week to see what happens here. It's coming down to the wire. And it's I'm just calling it out, man. I was up by 9 games going into week 14, and so you've been on a rally ever since, man.
Yeah, it helped that 1 week. I think like we had 5 different picks, and each one of those I got right.
Yeah, I might have gotten a little aggressive that 1 week, but hey, it is what it is,
See, I thought I was aggressive that week, so that's interesting that you thought you were being aggressive.
I,
Was that
I,
week?
I felt like I was playing fast and loose with my lead for a couple weeks, and that one bit me. But hey, it's all good, man. So let's look at the picks for this weekend. Our first game, we got Philly at Washington. Who do you like there?
Ah, shitty game. What a shitty game. Um, I like Philly to win this game. The trajectory of these teams are completely different. Philly is playing good. Washington's kind of playing shitty, so I'm going to go with Philly.
Okay. I'm going Philly as well. I did see that the weather could be a little bit dicey. Obviously, it's a ways away. Anything can happen. I like Philly despite the weather. I think if the weather's bad, it actually helps Philly even more because Jalen Hurts is a mobile quarterback. I was looking, I was actually surprised to see this. Philly is the top team in the league right now in terms of rushing yards. They're sitting at 2,448. And so I like seeing stuff like that. It definitely, anytime you get a positive like that, it's good to go with the team. So I'm going with Philly there. Next up, we got the Rams at the Ravens.
So this is another one. This is an interesting game this week. The Ravens, they need to win out and they need help to make the playoffs. I don't think the Ravens have what it takes to beat the Rams, so I'm going to go with the Rams.
Okay. I'm going with the Rams as well. And, the only thing I could find from this that Baltimore has going for them is that the game is in Baltimore. When you look at some of the matchup, the Ravens are the worst in the league defensively on a passing yards per attempt basis, and the Rams are 4th best. That's a huge mismatch. The Ravens against the run, they're a lot better, but fucking the Rams don't need to run, and they've actually been running pretty well recently with Sonny Michel, but I just see them carving up that secondary all day, so I'm going with the Rams. Next up, we got the Buccaneers at the Jets.
All right, so The Jets fucking blow.
Nothing like a late season bye week for the Bucks, huh?
Yeah, exactly. This is part of what I'm saying. Like the Bucks have like the easiest schedule to finish the season. It's like they called up the league and said, "Here's who I want to play in week 16, 17, and 18
Yeah,
to
we
get
need
me."
to let Brady rest his arm for a couple weeks before he makes another playoff run.
Yeah, I mean Carolina, the Jets, then Carolina again. The league did the Bucks all sorts of favors with this game. Um, you know, the Bucks could start. I don't even know who their backup is. What's his face?
Playing Gabbert, maybe?
No, it's the other guy. They drafted a rookie.
Oh,
Uh, oh,
yeah, I forget who it was, but I know what you're talking about.
it it's not Kyle Trask. That was Minnesota. It's the other guy.
It's not Kellen Mond.
Yeah, it's Kellen Mond.
Okay.
That's right. I was just like I couldn't remember his fucking name. So I think he's the backup to Brady. No, you're right. It was Trask.
Okay.
Mon was Minnesota, so I got
Ah,
them
yeah,
confused.
flipped them
But
around. I got you.
yeah, so they could start Kyle Trask, who's third string quarterback in this game, and still win by 40 points. So I'm on the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be crazy to take anybody else. I'm going with the Bucks here. They're the top team in terms of passing production this year, with 4,647 passing yards through the air. They may be without their top two weapons in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I don't think it matters. The Jets are tied for worst in the league with Baltimore defensively in terms of the passing yards per attempt. And so, other than that, I mean, it's just obvious. The Bucks are a clear top tier team, and the Jets are a very clear bottom 3 to 5 team, depending on who you ask. The bigger concern to me is whether or not the Bucks can actually treat this as like a bye week and rest some guys, because they're awfully banged up and they need to get healthy going into the playoffs. And so I'm taking the Bucks all the way. Next up, we got the Dolphins at the Titans.
This game was a hard one for me to pick. Tannehill revenge game. Um, Tannehill's looked like the Miami version, not the Tennessee version. Here and there, I just think Miami is playing too fucking good right now, and Miami needs the game a little bit more than Tennessee. Basically, Tennessee has to. I think Tennessee could lose out and still fucking be the number 2 seed. Like, I think. Let me verify that.
Yeah, while you're scoping that out, I'll give you my pick. I'm going with the Dolphins here. Like I said earlier, I can't seem to pick the Titans right this year. And it's hard to go against the Dolphins when they've won 7 straight. And so I'm taking Miami. I do think Tennessee looks better on paper, but that means nothing, man. They've been so choppy this whole year. And yeah, the Dolphins sucked early on, but it looks like they figured it out. So I'm going with Miami.
No, so I looked at it, and Tennessee has a bye week in week 18, so they could they could lose again. They need to win one of their final two to get the number 2 seed. If they lose out, they'll just miss the playoffs. Let me
What's their
see.
bye week? Jacksonville?
Houston.
Oh, Houston. Okay.
Let me just double check something. If I switch this, yeah. So if they lose out, they'll just miss the playoffs. But if they win one of the two final games, they'll have basically have the number 2 seed locked up.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, we're both with Miami there. Next up, we got the Jags at the Patriots.
This is like another shitty game this week. The fucking Jaguars suck. Patriots are mid-level team. Comparatively, it's like a varsity football team playing a middle school heavyweight team, talent
Okay.
wise. Patriots are going to beat the shit out of the Jaguars. 40 points, 60 points, maybe.
Oh shit. They should. It's like if they have any fine tuning left to do, this is the week to do it. get all the guys off the bench that you want to get them involved in some way, shape, or form because you might use them in the playoffs or whatever. I think this is the week to do it. So I'm going with the Patriots. And, conversely, it's going to be pretty sad to see the Jags get the number one pick 2 years in a row. I mean, they are really damn close to having that happen. And
Isn't it just
so,
like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, they were like a quarter and a half, or like 20 minutes away from making it to the Super Bowl?
oh, yeah, the Blake Bortles year. Yep.
Yeah.
They had a great defense. And Bortles was slinging it, man, all the way up until the very end. And then the wheels fell off and he regressed and never got back to that kind of form. But yeah, okay, so we're both going with the Patriots there. Next up, we got the Raiders at the Colts.
So, sorry, I had my eyes went wrong. I missed the Raiders, the Colts. Colts, like I said, Jonathan Taylor's key to this game. He gets 100 yards rushing, the Colts win. I think he does, and the Colts win. I think it's probably closer than people think, but I think ultimately the Colts win by 7-10 points.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that I think it's going to be a close game. I'm giving it to the Colts. I think if Wentz is out, it could change things, but it
Mm-hmm.
looks like he's going to play. Um, and the Colts, here's the thing, man, they're on fire, but they're still sort of flying under the radar, which is what I really like about that team. And, on the side note, looking at the Raiders, I did hear some rumors about Mike Mayock, and I think a lot of people were kind of just assuming um, that with Gruden being gone, he'd be gone at the end of the year. It sounds like it's, sort of like a coin toss at this point, whether he's going to be out or whether he's going to stay. I'm hoping they give him a chance, just my opinion, because Gruden had control over that team. Even though Mayock was there and he was doing his job, there were all sorts of reports of Gruden trumping him with picks and kind of pushing him to do things. I'm just curious to see what he can do without any interference because I've always been a big Mike Mayock fan. And if not, let's just get him back and I'll watch him in the draft every year because he did great with all that kind of stuff. So, but I'd give him one more year. Let's see what he can do without anybody, pulling strings. So, next up, we got the, and by the way, I'm taking the Colts. I don't know if I actually said that. Next up, we got the Chiefs at the Bengals.
This is another game where I had a lot of problems picking this. Like, I think both teams are playing really, really good right now, and I just give the edge to the Chiefs a little bit because that defense has been playing lights out, and I think that'll frustrate Burrow just a little bit, and the Chiefs will pull out the victory.
I got you. I like that assessment. I'm going with the Chiefs. I think, I saw that it was like a 5.5 point spread. Um, that seemed like a big spread to me for how hot both these teams are right now. But I think the edge goes to Kansas City. It just seems like their defense has been dominant lately. I think it's 5 out of their last 6. They've only allowed 10 or fewer. And I think that'll be hard to hold against Cincinnati with all their offensive weapons, but I still give Kansas City the edge. So they're getting my pick here. Next up, we got the Giants at the Bears.
Another shitty game this week. Bears suck. Giants suck. Bears suck just a little bit less.
That's exactly what I put in my notes, James. Chicago is slightly less awful, is actually how I put it.
So I'm gonna go with the Bears.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going with Chicago as well. It's hard to pick. There's nothing fun to look at in the matchup. Both teams suck. It's at Soldier Field. I'm going Chicago. I think they're just a little bit better. Next up, we got the Falcons at the Bills. I mean, come on.
Come on. My concern is Patterson and the ability for Atlanta to run the ball, and it's you can go right down the list of teams Buffalo has played that can run the ball and how they kind of are shaky. And like we just said, the run defense. That's my concern with this game, but I think the Bills can pull it out.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying about the run defense. I'm not as concerned in this matchup because I think they're more exposed against the like power running teams, and like the Patriots are the prime example of that. And I don't see Atlanta being that style. They're more gadget kind of stuff. And Cordell Patterson, I love what he's done this year. I don't want to take anything away from him. But I think Buffalo is like clearly the superior team here, and so I'm going with Buffalo. I don't think it'll be close. I think it's going to be a strong performance by Buffalo. Next up, we got Houston at San Francisco.
My pause is how well Houston played against the Chargers. Um, but I'm gonna go with San Francisco. San Francisco is a lot better team than Houston, and even though, and this is I might reconsider depending on Garoppolo and if he's playing or not.
Yeah,
If it's Trey Lance, I might consider changing it, but right now with Garoppolo playing, I'm gonna go with the 49ers.
yeah, I'm with you. As Houston proved last week, anything can happen. But I don't see lightning striking twice for them. And San Francisco is the better team without a doubt, in my opinion. The only question is whether or not Jimmy G plays, and does that change things for me? I'm not totally sure yet, but either way, I'm going with the 49ers for now, and we'll talk as we get closer. Next up, we got the Broncos at the Chargers.
After that performance last week, I am not confident in this pick at all. Also because theoretically, I believe the Broncos can still make the playoffs. Theoretically, they're still alive. Like,
Okay.
I think they have to win out and need some help, which, I mean, they might not have to play Kansas City because Kansas City's going to have it locked up, and they might need like New England to lose, or let me see. If they win out, yeah, they just need a little bit of help.
Okay.
So they need like New England to lose 2 games or Miami to lose 2 games. Like Miami loses this weekend, then to New England, then yeah, something like that. But I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's tough because Vic Fangio is coaching for his job right now. It could be a do or die kind of game for him. And even though their defense has been playing really good, especially without Von Miller, their offense is not even pedestrian. And that's going to be problematic against a team like the Chargers that are really strong offensively. I just don't see how the Broncos can keep up. And so I'm going with the Chargers. But I do want to say, separate from that, we'll talk about some of the coaching carousel stuff. If Fangio is released, I am hoping, James, that he latches on with one of these young bucks in either Byron Leftwich or Kellen Moore and goes and coaches as a defensive coordinator for one of those guys, hoping that they get a head coach gig because that's like the perfect kind of pair if you're one of these offensive minded young guys. Get a proven, solid veteran defensive coordinator to complement you as you get your feet under you. We'll talk more about that later.
So back to
Yeah.
Denver. Denver needs to win out, and they need Miami and Baltimore to lose out.
Okay. Man, it'd be tough with how hot Miami's been, but anything can happen.
Yeah. So that's what it was. Like, I mean, like I said, theoretically they're still alive.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, next up we got the Panthers at the Saints.
All right. So right now I'm really down on the Saints, and I don't know what the quarterback position looks like for the Saints this coming week. Um, and as it stands currently, from what I'm saw out of the Saints with anybody missing, basically, I like Sam Darnold over anybody the Saints could put at quarterback right now. So I'm going to go with the Panthers.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough, man. This is a strange game to pick because on paper, the Saints should be a stronger team. But in practice, they're near the bottom in offensive production, both rushing and passing. Both teams are fairly similar on both sides of the ball, with the exception of New Orleans having like the clear edge on their run defense. Um, I kind of looked at it as Carolina, they fell off the map after their hot start. And so I'm looking at more New Orleans maybe being the more stable team. And so I'm going to pick them here. But I'm not confident at all in this pick. Next up, we got the Lions at the Seahawks.
So I just think the Lions, and call me crazy, aside from losing to Atlanta but how they lost and the situation behind it, I just see so much fight in the Lions
Yeah.
right now, and I see so little fight in the Seahawks. And because of that, I'm going to go with the Lions.
Okay. So I'm going to take the Seahawks. And so we're going to have a little bit of action here. I really want Detroit to win. Like we've talked about, they played a lot of close games. And Seattle, on the other hand, is underwhelmed all year. They're both officially out of the playoffs, and that's where this makes it interesting. Is Seattle going to take their foot off the gas and Russell Wilson try to maybe not get hurt because he might be going elsewhere this year? It's hard to say. I just kind of look at Russell Wilson as like that sort of like ultimate competitor, and so I think he's still going to want to get a win if he can get a win. And so for that reason, I'm giving it to Seattle, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions nipped them here. Next up, we got the Cardinals at the Cowboys.
This is a really, really good game this week. Assuming
Arizona gets their shit together.
Arizona gets their shit together. Based on what I'm seeing, playoff-wise, this game doesn't matter. Let me verify that. Not enough for Dallas to have to put up that much of a fight.
Okay.
Basically, Dallas needs help to get the number one seed.
Yeah, I mean, what's got to happen? Green Bay's got to lose out, and they got to win out.
Yeah, I think so. And keeping in mind who Green Bay plays the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
No, Green Bay has to lose one of their two final games, and Dallas has to win out.
Okay.
Um,
I think Dallas will be motivated, man.
I see a little bit of a drop off this week. I see Arizona with all the chatter about was this team for real, this and that. Arizona's going to come out trying to prove something and beat Dallas.
All right, I'm going to go with Dallas here. I think from what I've been reading, Arizona seems like a popular upset pick here. And I think in the past you mentioned something about Kyler Murray plays well in Dallas going back to his college days. Is that ringing a bell to you at all, James? I don't know.
It's ringing a bell. I don't remember
the exact details behind it, but that's all right. I just think I think they're just too hot right now, and Arizona is flailing, and so I'm going to go with Dallas here. Next up, we got the Vikings at the Packers.
What a shitty Sunday night game.
You're just not happy with the matchups this week, man.
No, there's about 2 or 3 matchups this week that I think are really good, and next week's the same shit. Like, yeah, I understand wanting to put the divisional games the last week of the season, and it's great, but you end up with a lot of shitty matchups.
I
A
got you.
lot of shitty matchups.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do we have to see Detroit lose to Green Bay the final game of the season? Like,
Yeah.
how fucking
Yeah.
times do we have to see it before the league gives up on it and makes them play somebody else?
Yeah. It's like they're
Anyways,
hoping that it'll be, oh, they're going to fight for the top spot. Like, it's never going to happen.
basically, if Dallas loses this week, Green Bay wins this week, Green Bay has the top spot in the NFC.
Yeah. They get a bye week next week. Yeah.
And they get a bye week next week against the Lions. That's neither here nor there. It's just a shitty matchup. Um, Minnesota, although Minnesota didn't Green Bay lose to Minnesota earlier in the season,
I believe so. Yes, they did.
but that was at Minnesota. This is Green Bay, prime time, end of December, fucking cold as shit. I'm gonna go with Green Bay.
Yeah, you're looking at all the right elements here, and I'm taking the Packers. Mike Zimmer, his seat is getting pretty hot, and I think that this is the end for him. I think that Green Bay wants to win so they can secure that number one seed for the playoffs. They're not going to be messing around, and Zimmer's defense sucks, man. I was reading about it earlier. They're like in the bottom five in like every freaking defensive category, and so. I think that's going to be the Achilles for him. I think they're going to lose. This is the last year for Zimmer. Maybe he goes back and coaches what am I talking about? He won't go back as a defensive coordinator. He's been a head coach too long. But either way, I'm going Green Bay here. Next up, we got the Browns at the Steelers.
Another shitty matchup. Both these teams fucking blow.
Yeah, it's Cleveland has fallen from grace, unfortunately.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield, the only thing that's going to keep him in Cleveland next year is the fact that who else are they going to have?
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger is on the way out the door. I think Cleveland's. I don't think Ben Roethlisberger can play anymore, so I'm going to pick Cleveland.
I would love to see Cleveland make a trade for Cousins. It's like, hey, all the years that you guys been talking shit about Cousins, I'll take him off your hands. He is the guy's old offensive coordinator. So, but that won't happen. I'm going Cleveland here. It's tough, man. There's a lot of talk about this being Roethlisberger's last season in Pittsburgh, at least, and rightfully so. I'm sure he's going to want to do everything he can to go out with a strong showing. But I don't know. It's tough. Cleveland's got injuries. They've got shit going on. I could see this one going either way. But I'm going to take a flyer on the Browns. I think they're the better team overall. Okay, so those are the picks for Week 17. And let's move it on here, do our question of the week. And so, James, like I kind of previewed earlier, Pro Bowl rosters were announced. The question for this week is, in your opinion, who is one guy that didn't get voted in that should have? And I'll just start by saying most people, typically when you ask this kind of a question, they focus on some of the skill players, running backs, wide receivers, which is, I think, pretty understandable because, it's harder to gauge the performance of offensive linemen. There's not a lot of stat categories to say, oh man, hey, it sticks out like a sore thumb. This guy was better. And I'm saying that maybe I should go after an offensive lineman or a defensive player, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go with the running back position, and I'm going to give you my pick plus an honorable mention. And my pick is Austin Eckler for the Chargers, with my honorable mention being Cordero Patterson. And I'm going to say both these guys, sort of like a Swiss Army knife on offense. They do a lot running the ball, they do a lot catching the ball. And I think because of that, it makes it easy to overlook them. And what I mean is that, when you're looking at the stat sheet, you don't see them near the top of the list in the running category or in the receiving category. That's because their collective yards is what matters. And their overall production, they're both lighting it up. Eckler is sixth in combined yards, 1,347. He's second in total touchdowns with 17. That's massive production, man. That's a huge part of that team's success. Patterson, on the other hand, I could see why you would dog him because their team just sucks. And so it's like, can you really, say he's like lifting them that much? I think he is. They're just that bad. But he's fifth in total combined yards with 1,421. And for him, we're looking at total combined because he has special teams impact as well. But he's also got 11 total touchdowns. And so it's, I think Eckler for sure should have made the cut over Joe Mixon at least. Not to take too much away from Mixon, he's having a good year. I just think that Eckler has had better overall production and more touchdowns. But those are my picks, man. What do you think?
All right. First, I'm going to give you a player that should not be on the fucking Pro Bowl roster.
Well, that wasn't the question, but let's hear it.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And I'm leading that into my snubs, which I am struggling picking between these three players.
Okay.
Derek Carr, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Carr's still like right up there in total passing yards, but his touchdowns are lagging.
Third in passing yards. He only has 20. He has a little bit less than a 2-to-1 TD to interception ratio. Joe Burrow is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in passing yards, and he has a 30-to-14, a little bit over a 2-to-1 touchdown ratio. I mean, but Burrow is, I believe he's second to. Burrow has 30. So he's like seventh for TDs. But I mean, and then you have Josh Allen. Sorry, I drew a blank on. Josh Allen is third in TDs at 34, only 12 interceptions. He's seventh, right behind Burrow in passing yards. I mean, any one of those three. Here's the key stat: all three of those players have played all 15 games. Lamar Jackson.
I mean, I'd have a hard time not taking Josh Allen. He's got 38 total touchdowns, man.
Yeah, and no, I know. I'm not saying, but it's like those three, and I think Josh Allen just slightly gets the edge because of the touchdowns. But it's like, what metric do you want to use? All three of these are more deserving than Lamar Jackson.
I agree. I think that's a garbage pick. It's a popularity contest, and that's why he got it. I think Josh Allen, without a doubt, should be above Lamar this year. And not to say Lamar's, he's had great years. This is just not one of them.
And then I'd just like to point out that the two fullbacks that made the Pro Bowl roster, I think, are the only two fullbacks left in the league, with Juszczyk and what's the other guy's name? Patrick Ricard.
Yeah.
I think those are the only two fullbacks left in the league.
We're a dying breed, James.
Play more than like 5 snaps a game, so it was kind of no-brainer for those two.
Yeah, and Juice is actually a contributor. I mean, shit. If they would have won that Super Bowl, he could have been the freaking MVP, man. But it just, oh man, I would have been in heaven if that happened, watching a fullback win MVP. But it didn't happen, so that's done. That day is long gone. All right. Well, yeah. No. Hey, I appreciate the insight there. And so, yeah, I mean, out of the three guys, who would you give the edge to?
I think I'd give the edge to Josh Allen. Like, the total touchdowns is something hard to overcome when you look at the whole picture.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about the points. And that's my knock on Derek Carr. It's like, hey, man, it's great. You got a shit ton of pass yards, but you're only sitting at like 20 fucking touchdowns. Like that's just, everybody around you on that list is at 30 plus. It's just, it reminds me a little bit of Stafford earlier in his career. He had a ton of yards, but he always lagged in touchdowns, man. Okay, I think that's good for tonight. Anybody who's still watching, hey, hit us up. Answer our question of the week. We'd love to hear from you. James, you got any closing thoughts, man?
Oh, I'm still stuck on that because the other thing I looked at was passer rating, and of the Joe Burrow has the second best passer rating of quarterbacks
Okay.
in the league, just right behind Aaron Rodgers at 105, where Aaron Rodgers has 110.8.
Gotcha.
And the rest are like, oh shit, like Josh Allen's at 12 and Derek Carr's at 15. And all the way down here at 21 is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
it's
Lamar
hard.
Jackson has the same passer rating as Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and it's the running ability that's giving him the boost, but it shouldn't be giving him that much of a boost this year, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So, all right, well, yeah. So anybody who's still watching, we hope you like the show. Check us out again next week. We'll be doing it, I believe, on Wednesday again next week, right, James?
Yeah,
We were doing 3 in a row on the Wednesdays because of the holidays and some
holidays
personal stuff and whatnot. Yeah,
holidays and the wife's birthday.
yeah. Might as well be a holiday. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you're still watching, hit us up with that thumbs up, give us some comments, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. James, like always, man, it's been awesome. I hope you have a good night, dude.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut, hut, hike.